It's football time. Okay, it's OTA, organized team activities for the noobs time, which means praying to the football gods that your favorite player doesn't tear his ACL or have a secret surgery that limits him all year. In honor of Maya Angelou, huge sports fan, let's throw down some quotes. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. In the respect to the Titans, they made her feel, I quote, sleepy. You may not control all the events that happen to you, but you can decide not to be reduced by them. That means don't feel reduced when Jake Locker's carted off the field and Clipboard Jesus is arm wrestling T-Rack on the sidelines.
And losing.
I am a woman, phenomenally phenomenal woman. That's me. I can totally relate. All right, I can't, and I'll lose the tiara here.
Oh, does that mean? Oh, I made it. Does that mean I have to lose my awesome pirate hat? Because I like my pirate hat.
You can stick with whatever look you want. This is come as you are tonight. As your beer. Tonight's episode will be sponsored by Dos Perras Ale, first half, followed by second half, Cocoa Brown, a lovely brown ale from Hawaii that includes coconut. It's good.
Well, Sharona is drinking a Red Zen. And since pirates do not, well, pirates may drink red wine, but they're generally known for drinking rum, hard rum, dark rum. So, which I actually have, but not drinking it tonight.
Yeah, start mixing that. Well, the best hangout ever. It'll be great. We remember it was fun.
I started to bring shots, but we didn't do the shots thing.
Only at the live hangout, right? Only when we meet. Only for the Titans home opener.
There you go.
It's gonna look good. So tonight we're talking Titans quarterbacks, why the Titans rank 28th in everything, OTAs, and the most important topic in the world, fantasy football. How goes it, Sharona? I hear you drink.
It's been an interesting day for Sharona. Nothing earth-shattering. Just like a series of all kinds of just little things. You know, like every time I turned around, something was just, screwing up, and I was like, oh my gosh, which kind of carried over to the hangout tonight. So anyway, but we're here. Life is good. Sharona's wearing one of her favorite concert T-shirts.
Wow, there you go. I think I'm wearing like a White Sox. Oh no, that's right. I'm wearing, what is this, Grill Master? Grill Sergeant. It's so sad.
I started to say a White Sox, that's baseball.
Well, I was a White Sox fan until they won the championship, and now I don't care anymore. I got my championship in your face.
So if the Titans had won the Super Bowl, would you be, oh, they won the Super Bowl?
I don't know what I'd be. I'd probably be insufferable for a while, but
you'd be a Steelers fan.
Steelers fan. Oh no! Sadly or unsadly, that's not me. We're gonna start talking about the Titans. I figured it would be fun. Well, for us, it'll be fun, maybe, to talk about the Titans, kind of break them up by position, and talk about who they have and what does it mean and what's the meaning of life. I don't know, all that stuff. So we could start with the most important position in the world, a position that I would guess people would be optimistic to rank them 28th in the NFL, and that's quarterback. So what do you think about the position overall right now?
Well, I somehow missed the article where the Titans were. Was this an Evan Silva article? Because I know, that he's a big believer in what the Titans are doing and really thinks they're going to rock out this year.
Oh yeah, he's very. It's hard to oversell the Titans being a franchise, but yeah, I think he did rank them 32nd. I was like, wow, really? Compared to the Raiders? Okay, but it's like, you can argue that someone's really negative about the Titans, but instead of saying, oh, they're 32nd, maybe they're 28th. I mean, show something. I know they're terrible, but yeah, they're. It's rare that they get in the news. I mean, we have a little news bit about their backup quarterback today, which I think ended up being not so true story, but it's.
It's not.
That's how the Titans can get in the news. Well, let's talk about Jake Locker. We'll get to the clipboard Jesus. We got all kind. We could talk about him for like 45 minutes by himself because he's.
Well, the thing about Jake Locker obviously is he has to stay healthy. It's become sort of tiresome. Is Jake Locker injury prone? I mean, Sean Lee, just had another injury, and it could ultimately end his career. Injuries happen, and guys are going to have more than one injury typically over the course of their NFL career. Now the catch is in how severe it is, right? I mean, because there's a big difference between maybe a little bit of a broken finger, although then you have that that one guy who kind of cut his finger off so he could go back in the game. But
Ronnie Lott, yeah,
Ronnie Lott
probably wouldn't happen today, but who knows?
Who's going to stop? Who would have stopped Ronnie Lott? Who would have stopped? If Ray Lewis wanted to do it, who would have stopped? I don't know who would stop.
I wouldn't have.
Who would stop Richard? Can you think anybody could stop Richard Sherman? I'm not saying Richard Sherman would do this, but
there's a level of crazy, and then there's football crazy. Actually, I was trying to do some research because I think we often get told that when it comes to football players, we don't always treat them like human beings. We kind of go, hey, they matter on the field, and then once the game's over, they kind of disappear. But I ended up getting sucked into Jake Locker's injury history. So here's what I have. I have a neck injury in 2007, and he got carted off the field. Partial tear of the hamstring, summer of 2008. Broken thumb in September of 2008, ended his season. Tore his non-throwing shoulder in 2012. Hip injury in 2013, that was the first injury, and then he injured his Lisfranc, which is the bottom of your foot, which ended his 2013. So it's not like, you look at Sean Lee, I think he had torn his ACL before, but guys that like tear the ACL, somebody put the stats up, it was like 1 in 7,000 odds of tearing your ACL, but once you did tear your ACL, the odds went up to like 1 in 33, so repeat injuries are always an issue, but it's unusual in his case that it doesn't look like he's injured the same thing twice, so maybe it is just a matter of bad luck. And I do recall, I think it was 2013, he was playing for the starting job, and it was the preseason game, and it was a third down play, and he actually tried to run and dive for the first down. He got hit and he fumbled. And I think after that, the coach was like, hey, you got the job. Don't do that running thing in the preseason. Let's save it for the regular season.
But what do you do? I don't know. Injuries are largely it's just it's kind of a fact of the game. I don't know what the answer is to the preseason, off-season, OTAs, mini camps, kind of thing. You have guys who go out and they get injured like playing basketball, with their buddies and what have you. It just, you can't wrap someone in bubble wrap and protect them. You gotta.
I'd like that. That'd be good. That'd be good for the Titans.
only your fantasy players. You would only want to do that for your fantasy, your dynasty.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, it's all about me. There's not even a trophy in this league, but I'm like, I must. Oh, a player gets hurt. It's like worse than anything. You tell he's a good athlete. He's been drafted twice by the Angels. It was kind of funny because when he was a senior, he was drafted in the 40th round by the Angels. He said, no, I'm going to play football. He was like a parade All-American football guy. He was going to play football. But he was drafted again after his junior year, and they said no. And I just like this random stat. He threw a 98-yard touchdown to Marcel Reese, which just shows how awesome Marcel Reese is. If you recall, he's like a fullback / running back for the Raiders. Anytime the Raiders, anytime Darren McFadden got hurt, which was like every third week,
scored a touchdown against the Titans.
he would come in and like look awesome, and he was like a great waiver wire pick.
Maybe that wasn't a touchdown. It was an 80-yard play, though. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, he's like a fullback who basically can run like a 4.5 40. And he's a huge guy. But yeah, they didn't have a ton of talent around him, so that's a bit of an issue. I mean, in terms of his accuracy, he played 2 games against Nebraska his senior year. He won a combined 9 of 36 throwing, although they did win the Holiday Bowl to finish the year. So, hey, it went 7-6. But here's a little scary, and this is kind of coincidental, but they showed a list. Here are the first-round quarterbacks who have been taken with a losing record in college. Patrick Ramsey, pride of Tulane, Kyle Bowler, J.P. Looseman, as we call him, Jay Cutler, woohoo, and
Vandy.
Josh Freeman. So all those guys, only one's been kind of decent in the NFL. I suppose Josh Freeman, he's like been in the NFL like 7 years, and he's like 22 or some crap, but he's probably done.
Yeah, kind of feel bad for him, but who knows? I mean, we'll see. Maybe he can. He's with the Giants now. Maybe he can resurrect his career. I don't know. Odd. That is just a very odd situation to me. Back to Jake Locker though.
Jake.
Showing signs of progress. Was actually playing pretty well last year before the first of his injuries. Came back, did all right. And then got injured again. The interesting thing, the hip injury actually wasn't the only injury. I was almost a little bit more concerned about that knee because he wore that brace, to protect his knee, and I was concerned about how that was going to affect him. But I guess we'll just have to. He's participating in some OTA activities, and so, from all appearances, remains the guy, although, they did add a, for all intents and purposes, 4th or 5th rounder in this year's draft.
Oh, yeah, we'll get to him.
We certainly will.
So, Jake Locker's career. So, he's had 23 games he's played in. He played 5 games in relief his rookie year, and he looked really good, because he came in 5 times when Matt Hasselbeck got hurt and the team was losing and he had to throw a lot. So he has a 8-10 career record, 22-15 touchdown interception ratio, 57% thrower, 7.1 yards an attempt. He has 563 career attempts. Peyton Manning had 659 last year. So he's still a little underseasoned. Only 4 career rush touchdowns, but he has been kind of hurt. He wasn't going to be running very much after he got hurt last year. And I think he came back in 2012, too. So here are a couple of key plays by Jake Locker. Taking the sack on the final play against the playoff-bound Saints that would have won the game. Unfortunately, I don't think they really had any NFL-caliber receivers on the field, and the Saints basically molested everybody, so I don't think he would have been able to complete a pass. Like on 3rd down, he threw a slant to Mark Mariani, who's a kick returner, and it didn't work. So, yeah, he took that. They almost had a great comeback. And then, of course, we all remember the winning touchdown to Justin Hunter. That's Justin Hunter's first NFL catch to beat the Chargers in the season opener last year when Ken Wisenhunt was surprisingly conservative at the end and probably didn't think that Jake Locker had a 90-yard touchdown drive in him. And he started 6-0 in TD interception ratio and went 2-4 to the end. Although I do think the injury affected him because he looked fairly bad against the Rams in that game, and you could tell he's a little bit hurt. And then Joel decided, hey, let's have him run an option play, and he injured his foot.
Before the injuries really started to affect him, he had like 62% completion percentage, a very good quarterback rating. He was playing well. So if he is the guy, if he does stay healthy, and he is going to be the one in Ken Wisenhunt's system will be, I think, fun to watch and see how he does with somebody who maybe knows how to. And I wasn't as critical of Dal Loggins as a lot of people were, but yeah, there's some things he did. I was like, I'm not really sure why we did that.
I think he might need to be put in the oven a little longer. Like he wasn't done yet. I mean, he's like what 33 and.
Yeah, it might have been a little bit early for him.
In terms of coaches, that's not a bad track because he was a college backup quarterback who was never going to play, and he came through through the bottom rungs.
And where did he go to? Where did he go to school?
Arkansas.
Yep.
So he came through as the intern, the quality control coach, and he worked his way up. And those kind of guys I kind of root for because the guys who are ex-players usually get a few bumps up. But I'm saying, hey, good luck to him in Cleveland, and partially because I drafted Johnny Manziel in my rookie draft. But hey, enough about me. So the backup. So the Titans.
We'll get to this in fantasy football.
Oh yeah. So the Titans decided to let Ryan Fitzpatrick go. And man, talk about the narrative that 2% of the country will be excited by if Ryan Fitzpatrick leads the Texans to defeating the Titans later this year. I would say spot start Titans D against him, just personally. But anyway, they decided to go with the longtime Chargers backup quarterback, Charlie Clipboard Jesus Whitehurst, who, much like a third-string Titans quarterback, was a stud quarterback at Clemson his junior year and probably was going to be a first-round pick. Stuck around his senior year, didn't do as well. I think he was a fourth-round pick. And the Chargers had him so long that they even traded him to the Seahawks for a second-round pick. Whitehurst totally sucked as the starter there. Went back to San Diego to be a backup. I think he was actually third string behind Billy Volek for a while. But he's been around since 2009 or 2006. His first touchdown was against Titans. And I remember him from a college football video game because he was ranked 98 and he was almost impossible to stop. There's not much to say other than there was a story today, and this is how the Titans get in the news. There's a story about him losing an arm wrestling match with Brett Kern with a number 6, which is what Whitehurst has worn
his entire career.
And I say he wears number 6 because that number makes number 2, which is a spot in the depth chart, look better by comparison. There's not really much to say about him other than if he gets on the field, probably not good times for the Titans. I mean, I can see they've kind of developed a team similar to what Munchak wanted at the beginning of last year, the run a lot, don't throw the ball a lot, control the game, have a really good defense. Obviously, special teams are big because they signed all those returners, 12 of them. So, yeah, the excitement level over Charlie Whitehurst. I did see that he was going to wear number 12, and I was like, yeah, but isn't that Justin Gage's number that they retired because he was
12 Gage?
Or maybe because they're doing that goofy 12th man thing that was stolen twice. But, come on. Something different, Titans. Get noticed for doing something different. I'm just saying. But they're not.
You know what they say, no publicity is bad publicity.
Publicity is, yeah. So I wrote down in my notes here, Tyler Wilson, Sharona's boo, because you're the defender of the fine Arkansas Razorback SEC. He probably
I like Tyler Wilson. I don't give a bleep what anybody else says. I like Tyler Wilson. Now, I do not think that his roster spot by any means is secure or something that anybody should count on because of the nominal 5th round draft pick that we're going to talk about here in a few minutes, but
Yeah, I only got to read one article. It was written by Matt Wallman, who does that rookie scouting portfolio, and this was written early in 2000. I think it was 2013, 2012, when he was a senior. Because as a junior, Tyler Wilson was considered a top 10 pick. Then his senior year, Arkansas had that whole Petrino issue where
Yeah.
Bobby Petrino had that slight
Motorcycle.
off the field issue, and I think like 3 of his receivers were in the NFL.
Yes, he
He had
lost
a
all
bad
his
senior
receivers.
year.
I mean,
The team fell apart, and he was a 4th-round pick, and it was really bizarre because it's very rare that a 4th-round pick doesn't even make the team. And the Raiders kept Matt football to the McGloin over Tyler Wilson, and he kind of didn't. He was kind of bouncing around, and the Titans picked him up. And it sounds like he
didn't really bounce. He didn't really bounce around. I mean, he stayed with the Raiders, who, by the way,
practice squad, I think.
Yeah. Who, by the way, and this I think just kind of exemplifies why you shouldn't place too much weight on what happened with the Raiders. But anyway, the Raiders came out today and said that the combination of Schaub and Matt McGloin and
the other
Derek Carr.
Yeah.
I always want to call him David. Derek Carr meant that they had the best quarterback trio in the league.
Yeah, well, after last year when they had McGloin, Terrell Pryor, and I don't even know what else they had. I don't think they had anything else. McGloin, I think, wasn't he a rookie guy? All right, pet break. I'm gonna leave my cat asleep over here. Give him a pet or two.
It's okay. He was an undrafted free agent, a rookie. And he actually did all right. I mean, he almost led them back to a victory against the Titans.
Yeah, they were like 4-5. They lost their last 7, and the only close game they had was against the Titans. When Kendall Wright had one of his 2 touchdowns all year in the game winner. I remember seeing that mildly depressed at a sports bar, but that's okay. That's enough about me. So Tyler Wilson, I think he makes the team only if they decide Mettenberger is hurt, and they just decide, you know what, let's just go IR with him.
Or pup. They could pup him.
Because last year the Chargers kept a 3rd-string quarterback, and not only it seems like half the teams in the NFL keep a 3rd stringer. I would keep a 3rd stringer just because Whitehurst isn't that good. So yeah, he could have a shot. They've he's been with the team since December or something, so he's been around. At least they know who he is. He might have a name on a locker.
Let's back up just a little bit, Zach, because I'm curious about this. I was going to ask you.
Backing up.
Yeah, let's backpedal. Would you have preferred that they kept Ryan Fitzpatrick and not brought in Charlie Whitehurst or not?
I don't know. See, this is something I was thinking about earlier. I was kind of wondering why NFL teams don't draft like guys who are college backups to be backups in the NFL, because one transition that guys have to make in the NFL is you're a starter in college, and if you're a college starter and you get drafted in the NFL, you have to be like almost like an All-American, have all this great. So becoming a backup has to be like a big ego hit. And I think even Ryan Fitzpatrick, who was a 7th-round pick, had been a starter and got a giant contract with the Bills, so he still probably saw himself as a starter. And when the Titans put him in the game, they had to change their offense and go to like kind of a shotgun spread type thing. And even though he put up good numbers and he was a great like daily fantasy guy that people liked, ultimately he wasn't a guy the Titans were going to depend on long term. I mean, I don't know. It's weird because it's like, yeah, he was getting paid $6 million a year, but it's like, yeah, he's a backup quarterback. They get paid pretty well, and so it's like they didn't really save that much money getting Whitehurst, although they got Wisenhunt's guy, which I don't even know what that really means when it comes to a backup quarterback. Woo, we got his backup quarterback. It's like, yeah, you got a guy that like if he comes in the game, you're not happy. So I don't know. Fitzpatrick is kind of like on the borderline of being an NFL starter. I mean, he'll probably start for the Texans this year. What a weird situation that is. They got him and Case Keenum and Tom Savage. Oh my gosh. They're really good. They're really good defense. It looks like.
I mean, the thing about Ryan Fitzpatrick, he can put up good numbers and big numbers, but it's just the bone-crushing turnovers. that you just can't live with. I mean, it's just it's terrible. I mean that they were game killers, for the Titans, and so and
Yeah,
for
that's
the
the thing
Bills.
you don't see when you focus on, fantasy stuff, is you don't even care about the one interception if he threw for 2 touchdowns. But yeah, he would make those bad mistakes, and it's kind of what happens with an extended look at Jake Locker. He'll make a really bad throw, one out of every 10 attempts. But, give him, at least it's good that he's off his injury, he's back, so he can at least learn this new offensive system. But yeah, the last guy on the roster is one Zach Mettenberger, which is Sharona's anti-boo, and yeah, that definitely deserves a drink. He is a statuesque prospect who tore his ACL against Arkansas. I wonder if he and Tyler Wilson have talked about that. Yeah, people have already talked. I think it was Davis Maddock today mentioned on Twitter that he's probably the best quarterback on the Titans roster, and I'm like, okay, so a 6th-round draft pick who tore his ACL in November is the best quarterback on our team.
Who said that?
If that's true, it's Davis Maddock. He's really more of a fantasy guy who is still brokenhearted over his crush on Stephen Hill. Didn't quite work out, but he's got some new guys.
I gotcha.
So Mettenberger, I don't know. He probably reminds Wisenhunt of Phillip Rivers, because Rivers isn't really a runner, a scrambler, just a strong arm pocket guy. But he had Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham, 2 top pretty high NFL draft picks. So it's like, did the receivers make him look good, or did he make them look good? And coming off an ACL, I don't care. I mean, he apparently looked really good at his pro day, throwing the ball. He didn't look so good failing a drug test at the combine. So yeah, it's hard to say, oh yeah, he's neck and neck with Walker. I'm like, I don't see him. I see him maybe being named like the backup in November, but other than that, I can't be too excited. But it's like, well, we have a prospect, because it's like since Vince Young and Jake Locker, the Titans haven't taken too many kind of late-round quarterbacks who might develop. Like Rusty Smith, nobody thought he was ever going to develop into anything except, I forget if it was August or Dano Mite who had the crush on him and would never, let him go. It's a pretty straightforward thing in the NFL. If you get put in the practice squad, nobody immediately picks you up, you're probably not a prospect. And that's the Titans put Rusty Smith on the practice squad 3 years into his NFL career, and nobody picked him up. And nobody picked up Tyler Wilson until like after the season, and he was on the practice squad. So
Not after the season. It was during the season. It was early December.
yeah, don't mess with Sharona. She knows stuff. She's not
Don't
drinking
mess
like
with
me.
my booze.
With your boost. Yeah, well, I hope you practice that saying. Listen, after me, boo. Get you ready. Boo. Okay.
Tyler, honey, I believe in you.
You can do it.
You can do it, baby.
So do we care? Moving on from the quarterbacks, we'll go to running backs next week, and we can discuss the epic death match struggle between film and stats guys when it comes to Bishop Sankey. The people who look at his stats think he's like the next coming of awesome, and people watch him in film think he's got some work to do. But talk about opportunity. But that's a sneak preview. Anyway, so as Titans fans, and I say that loosely because we're both haters, are we affected?
Are we going to arm wrestle for the biggest hater title? Put up your dude.
Yeah, I know. I think there could be a pretty, it might be like a 64-team tournament or something like that. Yeah, are we affected as Titans fans by them being rated like 30th or 28th in about every category? Sports on Earth recently did an article that could only be spawned by an endless offseason, rating each NFL team by their hope factor, and the Titans were 30th. They got 6 points, and I don't even remember all the points involved, but the Titans didn't have many. So.
Hope factor. Um,
You might be the wrong person to ask about this on a positive side. Hope?
Look, as someone who's followed the Titans since their Tennessee Oiler days, their inception
Hold on.
here. Oh.
Just saying. We're moving on. So we're having a nice cocoa brown. This is a dessert for you. It's delicious.
All right. Well, we're gonna have more wine. Anyway, it's hard to be hopeful about the future or the direction of this team given what we saw in this year's draft. And I say that I think as an objective person, I talk about the Titans a lot. I talk about the Titans with non-Titan people and people like Zach who are very smart about football, who are very knowledgeable sports fans, and largely everyone seems to feel like while other teams improved as a result of their draft and their offseason and free agency, that the Titans did not. So if you're asking me whether the hopeful factor should be around 28, I can't really disagree with that. I need to peep. I will peep that article. I need to peep it because I'm not sure exactly I'm not exactly sure what they're basing it on, but if you're asking me as someone who comes from that background, having been, so involved with and, intimately familiar with the Titans, then no, I don't see much hope there.
I think the joke they used in the article is that the Titans are going to look good after they add their draft picks, even though the draft is already over. So, yeah. I noticed this is a little mild tangent, is that they're having this kind of rookie symposium, and I just assumed that the rookie symposium included, like, all rookies, or at least all maybe drafted players, and it's like skill position players. Even Taylor, your favorite first-round pick, he's an offensive tackle, so no one's putting him on a football card, so he's not even invited. He was the 11th pick overall. So it's like rookie
It's a popularity contest
for kind of fantasy football players. Like, we might throw a cornerback in there, or Clowney will be there.
Well,
but,
IDP,
if you're a
IDP.
Well, exactly. One of my favorite hashtags is No Team D, and we'll get to fantasy stuff in a little bit. But yeah, you gotta love all the players. You can't. But yeah, when you're offensive lineman, it's got to be a little bit frustrating to go. Yeah, you're not really.
Was Greg Robinson invited? Is Greg Robinson going to be there?
I don't know. I didn't see a list. I thought it was mostly skill position. I'm like, I think you have to be pretty skilled. Okay, here's one thing that's bizarre. So if you're a quarterback, you play every down. If you're like a middle linebacker, you might play every down. If you're offensive lineman, you definitely play every down. But if you're a defensive lineman, you get rotated out. Certain linebackers get rotated out. Some cornerbacks get rotated out. Wide receivers, running backs. But offensive offensive linemen, they play every play of the game unless they get hurt. So I would think they really should be worth more than these defensive ends who play like 40 snaps a game. But that's, totally different subject.
I think that's changing. It used to be that people really looked down on taking offensive linemen, in large part very high. There was a thought process that you didn't take a guard very high, which the Titans took, Chance Warmack at 10 last year. So I do think that perception is changing, and it also helps too, though, that the rookie wage scale makes it so reasonable to do it.
Yeah, that's something else, because last year the Titans and the Cardinals both took a guard in the first 10 picks, and that hadn't happened in a long time. And of course this year Greg Robinson goes number 2, and they say he's going to play guard his first year, and no one even said, whoa, what a reach, because they know eventually he's going to be a tackle. It's like, yeah, the Pick a guy who helps your team, although in the Titans' case, their first-round pick probably isn't going to help them immediately, which doesn't help. I saw a tweet from the Titans, I think it was their official Twitter account, offering a Javon Kearse signed mini helmet for somebody who signed up for season tickets. And I'm like, they can't even use a current player to entice people to sign up for season tickets. They have to go for the freak who was, Rookie of the Year in 1999. He was good for a few years, and he came back and had a nice finish. But, okay, that's what we have to offer.
Yeah, it really would have been so special if the Titans had made it back to the Super Bowl in 2008.
Oh, I know. We grow through adversity, do we not? And we just because we've had adversity.
Zach and I love to talk about that.
Have adversity and be like, I'm growing just fine without adversity. But we're gonna say that it's good for us. It's like we're taking our vitamins.
Builds character.
Yeah, us and Bills fans and Lions fans and Browns fans. Oh, we're all together. They wouldn't make a movie about us, though. No, that's not going to happen. So on the first day of organized team activities, the middle linebacker for the Cowboys, Sean Lee, tore his ACL. I was initially on that day making a joke because I swear last year was the year that like Twitter exploded in terms of minute-by-minute off-season activity like coverage. And some guy would end up like carted off the field, and Twitter would have this crazy panic, and like 10 minutes later, he's fine, he's fine. Like when a soccer player flops and ends up on the, getting like the jaws of life to get off the field, and then he like just jumps up, that sort of thing. But to see a guy who was probably Dallas's only hope for a decent defense, so maybe that's a good news for the Titans season opener, getting hurt. And also, just that he was one of their elite players, so he was like on the verge of probably getting this giant contract, and now he's out probably for the second straight year. So it's kind of sad to see these injuries, but like you said before about the bubble wrap comment, I don't think we're going to be, limiting players in these kind of activities. It was actually their rookie guard who actually injured him on the play, so it's weird. It's like, oh, your first-round pick's really paying off early. So,
well, kind of the interesting thing too is there's supposed to be very limited contact anyway, and so
it's probably a rookie saying, "Hey, I want to make an impact, and I want these guys to see I'm tough." So he like blocked him probably a couple seconds longer than he needed to, and he got hurt. Total fluke. I saw a little bit more minor, but Dominic Hickson, he tore his ACL. He was with the Bears. He'd been with, I think, the Giants, and before that, I think he was with Panthers, right? It was Panthers last year, and I think he's been with the Broncos. He's actually been around the NFL for a while. So it's that first day. So part of off-season, the organized team activities is please, my major players get hurt. Jarrell Casey, take it easy. Jake Locker, well, you're gonna go easy on him, right?
They will wrap him in bubble wrap. He'll be the bubble boy.
They should, and I'm kind of hoping that these guys who are up for contracts like Jarrell Casey, they just sign him, just get him to an extension. I don't know what he's playing in this newfangled 3-4 whatever defense, but he's an unbelievably elite player, so pay the man, as they say. Don't do like Werner. Don't let him get to free agency next year.
Yeah, it's a new coaching staff. They didn't draft him. He's obviously been a very good player, great value for the Titans considering his production and what he brought to their old style defense with the 4-3 base and all of that. So that's a situation that certainly bears watching to see what value they place on him. New coaches like to have their guys.
That's true. So they'll just have to restart maybe. I don't know. I made a joke earlier. I put it on the notes about where are my OTA stats, and actually people were putting stats for quarterbacks today, like, oh, Vic went so-and-so, and Geno Smith went so-and-so today. And it's like, okay, that's good. Now we officially have stats for everything. Because when the Titans had their scrimmage last year, there were stats for that, and it's like, okay, we have some numbers to play with, but they really don't, mean very much. But it's cool that we have something to hold on to. Isn't it lovely?
It's very lovely. I'm a stat geek. I like stats.
Numbers are fun.
Though I will say this, I had this conversation on Twitter one day this week about Tom Brady's 2013, which statistically, kind of looked okay on paper, but if you actually watched the games, you knew that he had his struggles in 2013.
Yeah, that's one of those things that's, since we're going to transition to fantasy anyway, that's important to underline, exclamation point, all caps. Fantasy football is kind of like, you usually play like a 13-week regular season, so you're basically playing 13 like 1-week seasons. Like, you can take some lessons from this daily fantasy. It's such a big hit. And like Tom Brady,
I have not played daily fantasy yet.
Well, it's fun because you get like a salary cap and you can pick your players and their values fluctuate week to week. And then you just decide who you want, and it's kind of cool because you can make your own team, and you go, all right, do I want to pay extra for the top running back or quarterback? Because Peyton was off the charts expensive. But it was fun to kind of build your team and anticipate week to week how things went. Can't say I did too well playing it, but it was a worthy thing to try out. But we're making the transition now. It seems that like rookie drafts in these dynasty leagues are ending, and people were just going right into prep for the drafts, which, of course, for most people, your fantasy draft probably is in August or maybe even early September. But it's never too early to start. At least that's what I say, because I say, well, for the more relaxed people, don't pay much attention. They probably just look at stuff maybe 2 weeks before their draft. But nobody watching this is one of those people. No, you already have your cheat sheets ready to go. You already kind of know what your players are like. But I don't know.
When I first started doing fantasy football, of course, I'm much better about keeping up with it on a regular basis just because I cover football and sports and stuff now. But back when I first started doing fantasy football, I researched intensively. Oh my God, so intensively. And I didn't buy any of those draft guides, never have. I did my own research. And we have a little diva who is just dying to get her airtime tonight, apparently. So
Diva, where does she get that from?
I have no idea, none whatsoever. But now I don't. Of course, again, I keep up with it on a much more regular basis, so it's not like I'm going out, excuse me, and doing all this research or what have you. But I definitely like to keep up with what other people think. And if you're new to the fantasy football world and new to playing fantasy football, ADP is your friend. Get familiar, learn it, get out there and see what where players are going. Of course, it all depends too on the type of draft. That's so important. You have to really pay attention to that. But really, fantasy football, so it's such a luck game too, because from year to year, it's hard to predict. Guys that have typically done well, or offenses that have typically done well. So, but it's fun, and it's definitely getting ready to start. Hopeful to get in there and do some more writing about fantasy football this year. I did a lot of writing last year about it.
Yeah, it's good just to kind of start out and look at the average draft position, and then yes, know your know your league is very important because I'm in this dynasty league, but we can start 3 running backs, so running backs are worth more. But we're not playing PPR, the point per reception, which seems to be kind of the standard now. Like they say, standard leagues, which don't have that. I think they're more of the PPR there. So you look at the guys who will catch the ball are more important. But it's just good to see where our players go, and I don't know because I did my own stats, I did my own projections, and then I realized I probably suck at this, so I'm actually making things worse. So I had more. I'm gonna look at ADP and people's rankings and just decide, do I like a guy better than another guy?
Well, a lot of leagues now have that flex position. And so if you've got a Danny Woodhead or a guy who can do a lot of things, you can use them in that. It's kind of nice to have running backs and tight ends who are able to to do different things. So yeah. How many drafts have you had so far, Zach? Any?
Well, I've just done my rookie draft. I'm still only in two leagues. We'll see if I jump on anything else after that, because I'm just in my local league and then my dynasty league. In the dynasty league, you have your players forever, and our local league is usually a keeper league, but every 4 years we start from scratch. So this year we're starting from scratch, and I really hope it's like 4 years ago. 4 years ago we had our draft, and by the middle of the second round, like 11 teams had taken a quarterback. And I'm like, I hope that happens again, because I feel like quarterback is really deep, and I really want to hit the running back and wide receiver positions early and often and not worry about that quarterback position. Because right now, the 12th quarterback off the board is Tony Romo, and he's like a 4,000-yard, 25 touchdown guy. And especially with that injury on defense, I mean, they're going to be playing a lot of shootouts. So it's like, hey. And they have Scott Linehan, which people are saying, oh, he's a really good offensive coordinator. He's going to, DeMarco Murray's going to have a good year. Tony Romo should have a good year. People don't like him, and he throws a lot of fourth quarter interceptions. But hey, that's fun, right?
Well, it's different when you're talking about. I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick was a good fantasy football option when he became the good. Yeah, I mean, one of the better fantasy football options when you looked at the numbers. So fantasy football, that's one area where fantasy football and reality just don't overlap. I disagree with Zach a little bit with a little bit of a caveat. There are three quarterbacks that I think that you can consider drafting early, drafting high. I did it last year. I took Peyton Manning in the first round, and he Manninged his way to a championship for me. I mean, he's unlikely to repeat what he did last year, but Manning at just being Manning is really great fantasy football option. Zach, did I lose you? I think that. Oh, here he comes. Are you back?
Yeah. It's like, hey, you can talk. You're all good. I think the consensus number one guy last year was like Aaron Rodgers, and he missed some games with injury. The thing is, I think part of it is like know yourself. Like if you really want that sure thing at quarterback, and I don't want to worry about quarterback, I'm set. You take Peyton Manning, you take Drew Brees, you take Aaron Rodgers, you take someone like that. And by the way, Tom Brady's not in that list. He's toward the end of the starting quarterbacks. Just for your knowledge, he's been up there for a while. But take one of those guys in the first 3 or 4 rounds, and then you don't have to worry about quarterback other than your bye week, and you can find a guy for that. Yeah. Unless you're in a goofy league like mine.
Do you draft a backup quarterback?
Well, we're in a weird league. We had 1 year where somebody ended up drafting like 7 quarterbacks as like a joke. So we've had set roster positions for years. So we have to roster 3 quarterbacks, so that gets a little weird. So like one of the more popular things to do is be like a waiver wire team where you just grab a quarterback off the waiver
That's
wire
what
every
I
week
do.
because you have matchups. Like last year, what was it? The guy for the Raiders, he was really good option against Colts week 1. Terrell Pryor, and he had like 3 touchdowns. He did really well, and you could have gotten him for nothing. But in a league like ours, where 36 quarterbacks are rostered, there's nothing on the waiver wire unless somebody gets hurt. I mean, I remember I had to pick up Tebow a few years ago before he started to save my team's season. So it depends on in your league. Like last year, I said I'm going to wait, and I ended up getting Michael Vick, EJ Manuel, and Carson Palmer, and it didn't really go well for me because Vick got hurt. This is one thing you can try to do is say, well, look at the teams we think will have the best offenses. And I thought, well, the Eagles' offense is going to be great, and Vick's going to be great. He was great for about 2.5 weeks until he got hurt, and unfortunately somebody else drafted Nick Foles, so I couldn't get him. I think a couple years ago I got
and that leads, that kind of leads to the handcuff argument. Do you cuff?
The handcuff argument? That's a personal question. In my Dynasty League, I have, because I had the misfortune.
Oh, did I say, I said handicap. I mean handcuff.
Yeah, I know. Hey, whatever you call it in Tennessee is totally cool.
Hey, right?
I don't judge.
I made up a word. Woo!
I like that. That's going to be a fantasy team name. The Handicuffs.
I like it. I might steal that.
Well, you said it, so you own it. But I had an unfortunate man crush on Julius Jones, I think his rookie year. So I had him in my dynasty team, and I felt like every year the Cowboys drafted a running back, and I had to take him. So I ended up with Marion Barber, who actually was a pretty good running back for a few years because he was scored like most of their touchdowns. But for the most part, I have Zach Stacy, and I passed on getting Trey Mason when I had a shot. So I was just like, well, I just didn't feel that excited. I mean, I do have Lance Dunbar, who backs up DeMarco Murray. DeMarco Murray has not played 16 games in a year.
Didn't he last year? Did he miss a game last year?
He missed a game or two. He actually had a good year. It was bizarre because he would have really great stats, but they just wouldn't give him that many carries, which frustrated me. It was a league that leaned on TD, so know what your know the
scoring system. Know the scoring system. Know the scoring system.
Because I had Kendall Wright, and in a PPR league, he had 94 catches last year, which is great. But in our league, no PPR, so every week he would score 6.2 points because he'd have 6 catches for 62 yards.
I wrote a fantasy article about while I was writing regular fantasy articles for MCM Music City Miracles last year, and I wrote one of my weekly articles was on fantasy waiver wire players that you really wanted to to be careful about, and the articles that I wrote were designed for redraft leagues, but with all leagues in consideration. And I kind of put in there, things about PPR leagues and what have you. And I had Kendall Wright on the list of guys that you kind of wanted to avoid. And it really upset some Titans fans, who were like, oh, he's doing really great in my league. And I had to come in and say, look, some leagues really rely on touchdowns. And, if you like just getting a bunch of yards, yay, go team.
Yeah, you don't want those guys between the 20s. I do remember on my one and probably only appearance on MCM radio last year, I mentioned that Jake Locker, I think it was Fantasy Football Calculator, and they didn't even have him on their list of quarterbacks being drafted, and they were like, what? They were shocked. But when it comes to quarterback, and once you get to around number 15, you're pretty much done.
Yeah.
When it comes to you think you want the really fast guys or you want the really tall guys because they are going to get the end zone, and you get that one play for a touchdown that's going to salvage your week. It's kind of what happens with tight end because it's so it fluctuates so much. I mean, you look at the weekly scoring, and a bunch of guys are getting in there because a guy will have, my favorite was, I think it was Bubba Smith, who had a weak line. He had 2 catches for 2 yards and 2
There's
touchdowns.
a blast from the past.
And I was playing him, and I was like, your guy had 2 yards, 1 yard per catch, and 1 touchdown per catch. And he scored like 14 points that week. It's kind of painful, but
yeah,
touchdowns,
well, do you remember
are big.
The year I started playing fantasy football was the year that Jerome Bettis vultured all those touchdowns from Willie Parker. And it was the guy who had Willie Parker in our fantasy league got pretty vile about it, I mean, so yeah, right? I mean, and those are just the things, I mean, so hard to predict. You never know, but it's the fun. It's so much fun. It's the fun about fantasy football is that you don't know. I will say this, and Zach and I, we have written communication. Sharona uses pink about what we're going to do for the show, and I sort of took a little issue with Zach's elite tight ends. I am assuming that you're talking about Gronk and Vernon Davis.
Jimmy Graham and constantly injured Gronkowski, yeah.
Okay, Jimmy Graham too.
Vernon Davis is...
Yeah, I kind of forget he's sort of a wide receiver tight end, so yeah. But yeah.
It's weird. It's almost like... this is the thing, it's tough because I play in my fantasy league for my dynasty league. And what I liked about fantasy baseball is guys had eligibility at multiple positions, and that gave them extra value. But in my fantasy league, if you're like a defensive end and you turn into a linebacker, that just kills your value. And I think about if Jimmy Graham were listed as a wide receiver,
I played in a league.
That would hurt his value a little bit.
I played in a league last year. I think this was an MCM league actually that had defensive players and IDPs, and you could pick a defensive player, any defensive player, a defensive back, a linebacker, a defensive lineman, and then a combo. No, I think I'll have to go back see if I can. I know I've got some screenshots of some of these.
Long snapper.
But anyway, it had an option for a defensive end / linebacker, so you could plug one or the other in there. I really liked that.
Yeah, I think flexibility is important because I think a guy like Jason Morrow, drafted by the Jets, I mean, he's really a like a slot receiver as opposed to a tight end. I don't think he's going to be doing a lot of blocking.
Tim Wright.
I mean, you think a guy like Delaney Walker, your other boo, there may be more. He's that old-fashioned...
Delaney's elite, baby. He's an elite.
He's that old-fashioned, Frank Wycheck style. He's going to block. He's going to...
H-back.
He's a guy you probably still could get really late in your drafts, and he, after week 5 last year, he was probably a top 10, occasionally top 5.
He was.
So
yeah, he was 5. He flipped with, I forget who it was he was flipping with, but he was between 5 and 6. I started tooting his horn early on, and people finally
came. Girl, you were tooting.
I was tooting. In fact, as a matter of fact, we probably have a horn somewhere on here. People finally came around to my way of thinking, because I remember, I got accused of being such going to bat for my guys. Whatever that means. I ultimately was proven to be right.
100% true. Partially, sometimes true.
Shut up.
Well, Walker was hurt. He was hurt during preseason, so he was kind of limited early. But yeah, once he caught on, he was doing well, especially later in the season when the team was losing all the time and had to throw the ball. He was one of the
hardest playing guys out there.
He was a good pick, and I was kind of like, what are they doing? They're taking the backup tight end for the 49ers, but yeah, he did well. Him and Crush Boy had great seasons. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Talk about flex position.
Uh-oh.
We got one Chewy Law.
Hello, kitty cat.
Like
I don't know
what?
where my diva's gone somewhere.
He just wants to be part of the game. So basically,
Hi,
when it comes
kitty.
to fantasy, you really should get rid of that kicker and team D position and just have
Yeah,
more skill position guys. I think IDP, it's more fun. It is
it's
tough
very
and
fun. I
it's
love playing IDP.
unpredictable because from week to week it's tough, but you just think of the linebackers or your running backs and defense. You want guys who make a lot of tackles, so you want that middle linebacker who plays 3 downs.
Linebackers, mm-hmm.
Although there are some guys like that was a tough thing. Like Jadeveon Clowney is listed as a linebacker, so as a defensive end, I think he has more value. But as a linebacker, uh, what's his name? Von Miller keeps getting arrested and injured. He's had some good years, even though it's weird. He's a linebacker, but he plays like defensive end on third downs. He gets a lot of sacks, so it makes and Team D is really like you were talking about luck. Team D is total luck. Like if you get a touchdown, you're good. If you don't, you suck.
I picked up Mo pretty early on. A pro tip from Sharona. Maybe this year it's going to be different, and technology has caught up. The big name driven fantasy sites are now onto the IDP bandwagon. You have to really be careful in leagues where you're allowed to draft IDP players because they don't rank them right. You have to manually do it. Do not rely on those internal rankings on IDP players. Do not.
Yeah, IDPs definitely fluctuate. There are not as many people who actually cover it, but they exist and they're out there and they're real. Like Titans fans, we do exist. We're just a small but
we haven't plugged one of our favorite fantasy related websites. We should do that.
Which one's that?
The Football Guys.
Football Guys.
Hi, Football Guys.
Exactly. Yeah, those guys do.
They do good work.
The cool thing is they do this podcast, which is for free, and they do it seems like an episode a day. And Gene Bramall is like their resident doctor. He's like one of their defensive guys. And they do IDP, like an IDP show. So it's good. So you can get the the offensive stuff, but the defensive stuff is also available. Exactly. Wow, we're almost dang. We've been at this almost an hour, huh?
Yeah, I think actually probably at an hour. I don't know where it tells me that. I'm sure that there's someplace it tells me how long we've been going, but I do not know. So
who cares about time? It's all about having a good time.
I bet this would tell me, but I'm not going to.
So tell us, Sharona, what do you have going on? What's happening? Tell everybody where they can find you.
Where they can find me? Well, you can follow me on Twitter at Sports by Sharona. I am live on Twitter just about anytime, 24/7. Which is completely a lie. No, seriously, follow me on Twitter, and you can find me every Wednesday night. Although Zach and I have kind of had preliminary discussions. We had a Thursday night show. I kind of like that. I wouldn't mind having a few more Thursday night shows before training camp starts. I think that would be kind of cool. But Wednesday nights going for 2 with Zach and Sharona, and Monday through Friday at 10 o'clock a.m. You can find me on Yahoo Sports Radio, Yahoo 730, Yahoo Sports, talking all kinds of sports, those sports that Zach kind of turns his nose up at, all stinky NBA. We haven't really talked much Major League Baseball, though we keep threatening to.
That's good.
But hockey, we talk a lot about hockey. We're going to have a hockey segment tomorrow. It's going to be fun.
Well, once the best out of 27 conference quarterfinals gets over, that's when I start watching. That's when I start caring. Hi, I'm Zach. I am Zach_Law on Twitter. Find me on Zach on Sports. I've been writing about my rookie drafts and how I keep bidding up Colt Lyerla in my Dynasty League. My newest interview will be with John Moore, who goes by VCFX the college football experience on Twitter. He does a lot of writing with RotoViz, and he probably has a bit of a man crush on Allen Robinson, so we'll hear more about that shortly. May post that later in the week. Been a little slower in my interviews, so I need to step it up because the season's approaching and people are doing all their rankings. So I'd like to thank everybody for joining us on this glorious Football Wednesday, and yeah, we may like to keep things fresh in this here sports relationship. May do a Thursday night occasionally. But you'll know where to find us. We'll be on Twitter. I'll never catch up to Sharona because she's about 40,000 tweets ahead of me. And when you have 27 writing gigs like she does, you have to promote thyself.
Promote.
It's been a lovely week. Sharona, thanks for coming with us, and thanks to the pets for joining us. And hopefully we'll have more Tyler Wilson love next week.
Hi, Boo.
Going for 2.